Shut the up. I don't give a dude. Look at this. Look at this. He's fighting a professional boxer.
Welcome back to Crime Chronicles. Today we take a look at the media whirlwind surrounding the will they, won't they, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight. Both camps have been all over social media making all sorts of claims.
I literally can't wait to look across the ring and see him and give him a death stare.
But perhaps the most vocal commentator with the world's biggest megaphone has been Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has launched a fierce verbal assault on Jake Paul after Paul announced he would no longer fight Mike Tyson. This announcement came on May 31st, leaving many stunned, but Joe Rogan was not among them. Rogan had predicted this outcome, warning repeatedly that the fight was a bad idea and urging Jake Paul not to challenge Tyson. However, Paul, driven by his quest for fame, ignored the advice. Now that Paul has officially backed out, Rogan is ready to give him the verbal smackdown of his life. Half of the audience probably began disliking Jake Paul when he challenged Mike Tyson to a fight, while the other half turned against him when he trash-talked Tyson and his family.
I hope y'all keep that same energy when I knock this old man the fuck out.
Joe Rogan, however, has been critical of the Paul brothers since they first entered the scene. He has never held back in expressing his disdain, criticizing their antics and questioning their legitimacy in the combat sports world. Rogan has labeled them opportunists, claiming they are in the sport for fame and money rather than genuine passion or skill. One of Rogan's most memorable moments was calling Jake Paul the biggest manipulator in the boxing world. Jake's rise in boxing has been rapid, but Rogan and others see it as a well-orchestrated charade. Paul's opponents often seemed hand-picked to ensure his victories, which Rogan finds deeply troubling. Rogan argues that Jake is damaging the integrity of boxing by picking fights with non-boxers or those past their prime. Floyd Mayweather also criticized Jake Paul, stating that as long as he continues to fight MMA guys and YouTubers, he will continue to look good.
Jake Paul, I mean, as of right now, for what he's doing, it's good for what he's doing. But once he fights a real fighter, it's going to be bad.
Rogan has consistently called out Jake for these tactics, likening it to building a mansion on a foundation of sand. He uses his podcast to highlight the discrepancies in Jake's fight history and question the legitimacy of his wins. The accusations against Jake Paul for fixed matches and stage fights are piling up. Critics, especially Joe Rogan, are not buying into Jake's unbeaten record. For instance, when Jake fought Ben Askren on April the 17th of 2021, the fight ended in a first-round knockout, which many, including Rogan, saw as a setup. The fight was more like a scripted WWE match than a genuine boxing contest. Another example was Jake's fight against Tyron Woodley on August the 29th of 2021. Woodley, a former UFC champ, was not a boxer, and their rematch on December 18th of 2021 ended with another knockout by Jake. Rogan dissected Jake's fight history on his podcast, likening it to padding stats in a video game set to easy mode. When news broke on March the 10th of 2024 that Jake Paul and Mike Tyson were set to square off, reactions were mixed. This would be Jake Paul's first fight as a heavyweight, and fans of both fighters were excited, but seasoned boxing fans were skeptical. Joe Rogan was quick to react, comparing the fight to an execution. He saw the fight as a media circus, rather than a legitimate boxing match. In an interview with ESPN on March the 12th of 2024, Rogan called Jake Paul a marketing genius and controversy magnet, but not a real boxer. He argued that the fight with Tyson was about headlines and money, not boxing skills. On March 15th of 2024, he reportedly reached out to Jake Paul directly, warning him about the dangers of fighting Tyson. He emphasized the physical and mental challenges of facing a seasoned warrior like Tyson. Rogan's public concern for Jake's safety was evident on his podcast and in his interviews.
If I was Jake Paul right now, I would be shitting my pants.
Oh, bro. Despite Rogan's warnings, Jake Paul brushed off the concerns and expressed confidence in his ability to take on Tyson. And this only fueled Rogan's frustration. On his March 25th of 2024 podcast, Rogan's exasperation was palpable. He believed Jake was making a huge mistake, blinded by fame and fortune. Mike Tyson's health had also been a concern leading up to the proposed fight. In early 2024, Tyson revealed he was dealing with back problems and joint pain, making it difficult to train. When Jake Paul announced that he was bailing on the fight with Tyson and would now fight KSI instead, it caused a media frenzy. Joe Rogan's reaction was swift and intense. He accused Jake of showing his true colors and called the move cowardly. Rogan's verbal beatdown was relentless, criticizing Jake for wasting everyone's time and dragging boxing's name through the mud. Rogan argued that Jake Paul was a fraud who built up hype only to run away when it mattered most. Joe Rogan has consistently criticized Jake Paul and his brother Logan for their approach to combat sports. Rogan's criticism extends beyond personal dislike. He genuinely believes they are misleading fans and undermining the sport. Rogan's intense reaction to Jake Paul's withdrawal from the Tyson fight underscores his commitment to preserving the integrity of boxing and holding the Paul brothers accountable for their actions. Joe Rogan's ongoing criticism of Jake Paul reflects his deep concern for the integrity of boxing. Rogan sees Jake as a manipulator who is damaging the sport's reputation by picking easy opponents and staging fights. Despite Jake's confidence and bravado, Rogan remains steadfast in his belief that Jake's actions are a disservice to boxing. Rogan's relentless critique serves as a reminder of the importance of genuine competition and respect for the sport. No one could accuse Joe Rogan of not being passionate about combat sports. Over and above his acting and comedy work, he will be best known to most people as an MMA commentator. He obviously is very passionate about boxing and martial arts, and as one of the world's most popular podcasters, feels it's important to call out those who don't take combat sports seriously. The flip side is that Jake Paul has obviously been training hard for years to put himself in a position to call out Mike Tyson, and his successful marketing of his fights should be commended. He has worked his way through a number of high-profile bouts and taken his fair share of punches. Why shouldn't he get paid for it? Surely he deserves some respect for wanting to get in the ring and prove himself against arguably the greatest boxer ever. After all, most of us with Jake Paul's profile would be sitting back and relaxing, rather than potentially getting flattened by a wrecking ball punch from a boxing legend. Mike Tyson has had a few minor medical problems which have messed with the fight schedule, killing it off for the time being. Regardless of what Joe Rogan says, we would love to see a Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight sooner rather than later. Thank you for joining us today on Crime Chronicles. Let us know in the comments who you think would win, when, and if Jake Paul and Mike Tyson finally meet in the ring. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the channel with your friends.